So, I've completed the first 3 lessons, and I'll continue with the more technical ones: electricity, attitude control, staying alive. I guess that's not that technical, but that's a lot of sound. Welcome to the electricity lesson. In this lesson, we will take a quick look at the various systems and components related to electrical power system. Before we start, we will make a quick reconfiguration of the autopilot, as we will be depowering important components which the autopilot ASCS depends on. I don't know if they had a better way of saying that. Okay, set the ASCS mode to aux on, and don't worry, we will cover what all of this really means in the reaction control system lesson. In short, this disables the ASCS auto attitude mode we're currently in. Okay, that's that. The Mercury space capsule comes with an electrical system that is capable of producing both DC and AC electricity. DC direct current is supplied by 6 rechargeable silver zinc batteries, each operating at about 24 volts. Why can the volts differ from the nominal 24 volts? The current electrical load and battery capacity, how full the battery is, can make the volts read out somewhere between 23 and 27. The main batteries are connected to the main DC bus. The main DC bus is responsible for distributing electrical power to most of the onboard systems. 3 of these batteries are wired in parallel and are considered your main batteries. Should your main batteries fail, you have a backup standby battery, 2 wired in parallel, that will keep you powered for a while. The last battery is called the isolated battery and is used to give power to your very important squibs. The squibs are the pyrotechnics for separation and jettison. What if the isolated battery fails? You can check the status of the batteries by using the DC volts gauge. The main batteries, standby batteries, and main bus should ideally show a voltage of 24. We've been through this before. Okay, and then we go through all these. Yeah. Ah, no, I didn't mean to click that. That's one of the problems that happens sometimes. A low voltage on one of the batteries is a good indication that something is wrong with it. If this happens, it's a good idea to switch over to a standby battery for safety. Turn off the battery and turn off the battery. Let's pretend battery 1 is broken and showing a low voltage. Let's switch over to the standby battery. So this is done by setting the standby battery switch on. It'll connect the standby battery to the main DC bus. So of course, if the isolated battery fails, we'll switch that isolated battery to standby battery. The switches that connect the batteries to the electrical system are located on the right and left side of your seats. They can be hard to reach. Oh, these. Yeah. There it is. I can turn my head like that. But set the main one to off. When you are on the standby batteries, you need to conserve power. We will not need to do this now, but this is done by shutting down systems you don't need, like the blood check, ASCS, and the lights, etc. The flashlight is always available and can be toggled using F. Flashlight will look in the direction of you, but can follow the mouse cursor. We've been through that before. Okay. An important detail, I wonder if it runs out of battery. The important detail is that all flight modes that operate the 2 reaction control systems used to orient this capsule are based on DC power, except for something called manual propulsion manual mode. You can take a note somewhere that if you are having issues with your electrical system, use this flight mode to still be able to control the capsule. If you are having issues with the standby batteries as well, see a low voltage on one of its batteries, you have the final option: connect the isolated batteries to your main bus. So maybe that doesn't, no, that's still saying standby. So okay, how do we do this? Oh no, it does. Okay, so actually the isolated that's not if the isolated battery fails, switch it to using the standby. That's actually switching the isolated battery to the bus to power everything else. So I guess the squibs, if the isolated battery fails, would just use the main bus batteries, one would expect. Turn off all systems that you don't need to keep you alive. You can use the DC amps gauge to see how much power you are consuming. By going to main. Consuming a lot. You should avoid using the isolated battery this way at all costs. If possible, try to wait until you are preparing for reentry, as the main bus load will quickly drain the isolated battery. The source of the ammeter is controlled by the same selector used for the DC volts gauge. Let's go back to our original setup. So we're going to have the standby batteries off. We connect main battery 1 and then this back to normal. Okay, the ASCS and the fans require AC electricity. AC is generated from DC using inverters. We have one AC inverter that provides 250 volts at 400 Hz to the ASCS system. I'll just call it the autopilot system, okay? One AC inverter that provides 150 volt amperes for the fans, and one final standby inverter that can provide 250 volt amperes for either the autopilot or the fans. You can check the gauge, check the status of the AC system using the AC volts gauge. The AC volts gauge should read between 110 and 125. You can rotate the AC knob to see the status of each inverter. Ensure that it's set to fans for now. So it is set to fans. Standby, autopilot, and then the two buses with those voltages. If one of the inverters goes down, the standby inverter will kick in and illuminate the standby AC auto light. That's there. You can control what AC bus to use for the autopilot by setting the autopilot AC bus to either standby, off, or norm. Keep it at norm. You can also control what AC bus to use for the fans by setting the fan AC bus to either standby, off, or norm. Keep it at norm. Having fans selected on the AC volts knob, you can see that it is powered correctly by verifying that the voltage shows 110 to 125. Set the AC selector to standby. Other way. Nothing is connected to the standby inverter, so it should read 0 volts. Set the fan AC bus to standby. Come on. Okay, then it gets the 110. Note that the fans are now powered by the standby inverter. You can do the same with the autopilot. So then it goes all the way to 150. The standby inverter can power both the autopilot and the fans. However, to avoid overloading the system, shut down all systems that are not critical for the autopilot. Okay. And with just the autopilot, it goes back down to like 120. Let's finish by talking about power consumption. Make sure the ammeter is set to main. Power consumption, yeah, okay. So it's that one. Just get this back. Should always be on your mind. As mentioned, the power consumed by your systems can be read on the ammeter, okay. Try to set the autopilot AC switch to off and notice the impact on the ammeter. Oh, it went down. The maneuver switch on the lower left side of the panel is used to turn on or off the gyros. Setting this to off will also reduce the power consumption. I like my gyros though. Check the ammeter. Okay, we're down to 30. Is that really worth it though? It's like 31 with those on, and then 30 with those. It barely moves at all, really. Definitely keep the gyros on. Fuses are also a way to turn off systems. Most systems have one or more fuses connected to them. Each fuse switch has 3 positions, off and 2. Each system, 1 off and 2. Each system can be connected. Each system connected to a fuse has a primary fuse and a backup fuse. Locate the highlighted programmer fuse and set it to off. Oh no, that's the wrong one. That's the blood pressure. Okay. If a system isn't working, ensure the fuse is set to 1. If the system is still not functioning, set the fuse to 2. The number 2 position can be a second fuse, or in some critical systems is a solid conductor to ensure positive continuity. In the Mercury Flight Manual panel overview, the fuses marked in gray have a solid conductor. Pay close attention to the various battery states and power consumption and react as soon as possible if you see something out of the ordinary. Electricity produces a lot of heat, so pay attention to the cabin temperature indicator to avoid unpleasant situations like an electrical malfunction, smoke, or fire. In the mission pad checklist, you will find a dedicated section for emergencies called Emergency Procedures. Find this section now. Let's find the electrical power system. So, Emergency Procedures. Find the electrical power system emergency procedures. Open the orbit emergency checklist and scroll down to electrical power system. Feel like some of this is new compared to the last time I did this, so it's good. Okay, so that's environment. Electrical system emergency procedure, main battery failure. Failures on one or more main batteries may be detected by periodically checking the voltage every 30 seconds. If any battery shows less than 18 volts, turn that battery off. If any battery is below 18 volts, turn it off. That's those. Can I get those again? There they are. Okay. If the main bus voltage is below 18 volts, check all bus and battery voltages, turn off all low priority equipment. Well, getting familiar with the section. Okay, we're getting familiar with the section. Standby battery failure. The only indication of a standby battery failure will be by periodic checks. If standby battery failure is detected, turn that battery off. If the main batteries also fail, place the audio bus switch to emergency to permit the isolated battery to maintain communications. Oh, they didn't mention that before, did they? Hold on. View. Audio bus. That can be set to emergency. Okay. The isolated battery also supplies the isolated squib bus to ensure sufficient power to fire all squibs as well as the retrograde rockets. The isolated battery may also be connected to the main bus through the standby battery switch if the isolated battery switch is placed in the standby position. We've seen some of that. Okay. Radios are needed. Emergency, standby on. Okay, well, we've been through this stuff as part of the training. So, next, attitude control. Fun part where we get to take a look at the world. Okay, welcome to the reaction control system tutorial. In this lesson, we will take a look at the various systems of the Mercury capsule that help stabilize it as well as change its attitude relative to Earth. The Mercury space capsule comes equipped with a few systems to keep it stable and control its attitude. To do this, it needs to know where Earth's horizon is. Two mechanical components called the horizon scanners detect this. Earth emits a lot of radiation, space does not. These scanners detect where a sudden drop in radiation happens when the scanner goes from the threshold between Earth and space. One horizon scanner is used for pitch and another for roll. These operate periodically, so if you see a sudden change in pitch and roll, this is the reason. The capsule comes with 3 gyroscopes that track the attitude and 3 accelerometers for rate indication. These can be slaved to the horizon scanner to get relative data to the Earth's horizon. This is how the capsule knows its orientation in space. The pitch horizon scanner can only look forward with a field view of 35 degrees plus or minus. Same with roll, but it looks to the other side. If you are outside of the horizon scanner's field of view, the gyros will revert to free mode. When the gyros are in free mode, the attitude will change based on thruster changes. Over time, this can introduce an error in attitude. When the horizon is detected, they will snap back in slave mode, wish there was another name for that, and you will see a jump in the attitude indicators. That is what they call it with the gyroscopes, though. But to automatically control the spacecraft in various situations, a system called Automatic Stabilization Control System, autopilot I'm just gonna call it, is used. In this mode, the spacecraft should be able to orient itself and keep a given attitude based on the spacecraft's phase in the mission. To maintain or change the attitude, the spacecraft uses a set of thrusters called the Reaction Control System, RCS. This system can be controlled by the autopilot, backup rate stabilization control system, or by manual propulsion. So there's the autopilot, and then I'll call it the SAS. The rate stabilization control system is, as far as I'm concerned, SAS, and then the manual propulsion. The reaction control system consists of 18 thrusters that can alter the spacecraft's orientation. These are the thrusters that are used to change pitch, roll, or yaw, or modify the capsule's angular rates. Well, I mean, that would be the same thing. Anyway, changing pitch, roll, and yaw is, in fact, changing the angular rotation rates. The capsule can be oriented and controlled by either an automatic mode using automatic stabilization, the autopilot, or by one of three astronaut control modes: fly-by-wire, manual propulsion, and the SAS, or rate stabilization control system. Fine. Let's first focus on the autopilot, then return to the other modes later. The autopilot establishes and maintains a stable attitude using one of four basic automatic modes: damper, orientation, attitude hold, and reentry. Let's first get familiar with these controls. In the virtual cockpit, press F6 to move the camera to the stabilization control panel. A rectangle called ASCS mode select with 3 switches configures this system in conjunction with 4 pull handles. These. Okay. Black manual pull handle, white handle for pitch, roll, and yaw. Currently, the system is configured to use the autopilot to control the spacecraft fully automatically. This means that it will slave the gyros to the horizon scanners and use the automatic reaction control system to orient and maintain the spacecraft in retro attitude. Just a reminder that there's a different auto reaction control system fuel as there is manual. 2 switches and 1 handle are used to enable full automatic control. First of all, the autopilot mode must be set to norm, so instead of fly-by-wire. The middle auto switch must be set to auto instead of rate command. And then lastly, the black manual handle must be in the in position like it currently is, unless you messed around. Properly did that. In this mode, the automatic phase shifter system decides the orientation. This system is what rotates the spacecraft 180 degrees in yaw after capsule separation, automatically orients the spacecraft after rotation, maintains orientation, and rolls the spacecraft before reentry. There are two reaction control systems. There's a lot of redundancy there. One for automatic control called System A and one for manual control called System B. The autopilot mode we just talked about uses the Auto RCS System A. The middle auto switch decides which RCS system to use. System A uses 2 thruster settings, low and high, and consists of 12 thrusters. System B has variable thruster strength based on how far you push the stick, called proportional control, and consists of 8 thrusters. I thought there were 18 thrusters altogether. But anyway, or something like that. Each of the reaction control systems has its own fuel tanks, and as indicated on the control fuel gauge. Yep. The left gauge shows fuel available for auto, and the right gauge shows fuel available for manual. Low fuel warning light will be visible if one of the tanks is below 25%. If the autopilot fails or you need to manually take control of the automatic reaction control system, you can use the fly-by-wire mode. This enables you to use your stick to control the attitude. In this mode, you can either fire the low thrust or high thrust depending on how far you push the stick. Using the keyboard, you can only fire low thrusts manually. Let's try this mode. The fly-by-wire control mode is configured by the same 2 switches and the same handle with one exception. Since we were in auto, we need to select fly-by-wire. Use W and S to change the attitude. You can see the firing. Oh, I thought we could see the firing, but anyway. Remember to use small thrusts, you have very limited fuel. You can already see it going down even though I haven't used that much. If you have time, it's better to use a small thrust and a low rate to get your desired orientation. You can sort of see the puff. You can enable auxiliary damping and automatically damp out any attitude rates below down to 0.5 degrees per second. If you want the spacecraft to stand still, select this mode. Okay, let's try this now. Using fly-by-wire mode, establish a pitch rate of 3 degrees per second. Well, that's about right. This can be achieved using WRS and by monitoring the pitch rate indicator. Each dot is 1 degree per second. I don't know if they mean the big dots or small dots, but maybe that's 3. Okay, then we can just set this back to auto. That's all they want. Aux on. Now 0.5, so 0.5 is, well, it's within 0.5, so. If you want to go to the fully manual propulsion system, first set that to norm. Saying to switch to normal aux does not really influence manual propulsion, so it can be set to either. But for now, use norm. Then this one to rate command. Lastly, pull the manual one out. In this mode, you will be able to thrust manually in all directions. The system is available even if the electrical system should fail. Wonder how it's all wired like that. I mean, if the electrical system has failed, how do they even ignite the little thrusters? Try to change the attitude a bit. I'm doing that. Okay. Looked at the fully automatic mode, fly-by-wire mode, and the manual mode. Let's take a look at the rate stabilization mode. Rate stabilization control system is a semi-automatic mode that enables you to change attitude using the stick. If the stick is centered, it will stop any rate momentum down to 3 degrees per second. That's still a lot. To enter rate stabilization mode, first set mode to norm. It's on norm. Should already be the case. Then set the middle one to rate command. That's already there. This enables the B one, so well, we haven't used much of that fuel. Then put this handle in. Okay. Now when we change attitude, it'll automatically limit it. So if I pull really fast, it'll eventually puff so that it doesn't go so fast. That's all. So it doesn't stabilize all the way, it's not that strict. In this mode, the angular rates are reduced to 3 degrees per second when you don't give any input. RSCS will also limit your maximum angular rate to 10 degrees per second. This means that you need to hold stick deflection in the direction you wish to change attitude. The rates will build up to 10 degrees per second and then stop firing the thrusters. At this point, the capsule will rotate in the direction of the deflection. When you are at the desired attitude, release the stick. The RCS will damp the rates to 3 degrees per second, damp the rest yourself. Gotta do everything myself. Anyway, I've given it a try, it's fine. Manually orient so that the attitude is 0, 0, 0. Oh, great. Well, that's good enough for me. Okay, let's go back to automated mode. So that's already at norm. We would want to go to auto here. That's it. Yep. One last thing I want to... Boy, it has a different idea of where we need to be at. One last thing I want to mention is the ability to combine the manual modes and the automatic the autopilot. To do this, you will need the mode switch in norm position and the auto switch in auto position, and then pull this out. You can mix and match in any way you like, really. The capsule will still be in fully automatic control, but if you pull out any of the pitch, yaw, and roll handles, that select axis will be in manual mode. This is good for letting the autopilot control one or two axes while manually controlling the others. Pull the switch, pitch switch out. Okay, so now we can do pitch, but I can't actually do roll or yaw. So I'm pushing the roll and yaw, I can't do it, but I can do pitch. Try to maneuver, yeah, I'm fine, I got it. There are more configurations available, really? But these are the ones you really need to understand. The others are something you can get creative about after learning the basics. Ah, the artistry. To sum up, the autopilot is the autopilot. Attitude is defined by gyros and horizon scanners. A reaction control system is the system that fires the thrusters. It's made up of two systems, A and B. A is automatic, B is manual. Reaction control system is controlled by the autopilot or manually by fly-by-wire, rate stabilization control system, or manual propulsion. It's quite a lot, but it's important to understand how to control the capsule. I would recommend checking the RCS chapter in the flight manual too, and try this lesson again after reading the flight modes chapter. Okay. Oops, back. Oh, what was all that? Multiplayer ranking. How do I get a multiplayer ranking anyway? That's a good question. I don't know about the multiplayer ranking. So, as far as this stuff is concerned, yes. They don't even care about the Mercury stuff. Anyway, this is all stuff I completed from before. Okay, staying alive. That's the environmental control system. I remember one time I did the Mercury stuff and I had it get really hot in the capsule. The environmental control system has one primary job: to keep you alive in normal Earth-like conditions, sorta. The pressure is still going to be 5.5 psi. This means providing oxygen, regulating temperature, as well as providing water and cleaning the air. Oxygen is supplied at 5.5 psi in the cabin and has two circuits, one through the cabin, one through the suit. At the launch pad, the cabin is filled with pure oxygen at 16 psi. This bleeds off as the outside atmospheric pressure decreases during ascent. It can be monitored on the cabin pressure gauge. There. Temperature is regulated by coolers. The amount of equipment and small scale of the capsule requires coolers to keep a set temperature. Temperature can be regulated using selectors. They are located on a panel just below the hatch. That's the hatch, I guess. Okay. No, out of bounds. Okay. Suit temperature can be controlled using the suit temperature selector. Cabin temperature can be regulated using the cabin temperature selector. Wonder why it has me saying that. There are two environmental circuits. One for the cabin, one for the suit. Air flows through these circuits and each has systems to keep them fresh. Water is used as a coolant. Two heat exchangers are used to regulate temperature, one for each circuit. Air is pushed through the cabin and the suit by three fan systems, one for the cabin, two for the suit, one primary and one backup. The backup fan will automatically start if the primary fan stops. We have two switches for controlling the fans. First, we have the one for turning the cabin fan on or off. If this is off, the cabin temperature will increase. Keep it normal. Okay, norm is on. Then we have a switch for the manual control of the suit circuit. You can choose between norm, number 1 for primary fan, or number 2 for the backup fan. After atmospheric entry, the oxygen emergency mode will initiate. This will provide fresh oxygen through the snorkel at a fixed rate, bypassing the fans and the heat exchangers. This will trigger an alarm that must be muted using the O2 emergency tone switch. All switches in this row can be used to mute alarms. You can check the amount of oxygen you have left by using the oxygen gauge. You have 2 oxygen tanks, 1 primary, 1 secondary. These are controlled automatically. If the cabin pressure is outside the normal range, below 5.5 psi, an alarm will sound. Again, you can silence the alarms by the correct tone switch on the right side of the main panel. If you need it, in case of events like a fire, you can decompress the cabin to remove oxygen by pulling the decompress handle. Try this now. No, let's not do that. Oh well. Cabin pressure is rapidly decreasing. Alarm will sound. Silence it by muting it. I think it's important. Switch it to off. Now the cabin pressure is 0. Check the cabin pressure gauge. It should now indicate cabin pressure is low or 0, but we do still have our suit on. To stop the venting of cabin air, push the handle back in. Okay. You can repressurize the cabin by pulling the repress handle out. Okay. Until the cabin pressure, with those handles, it's not clear which way is right click and which way is left click. Until the cabin pressure is at 5.5 again. Okay, it only goes up to 5.5. It doesn't let me overpress. It's at 5.5, push the handle back in. Note that this consumes a lot of oxygen. So we're down to 75% on... Oh no, that's the steam vent. We're down to 65% on one of the tanks. It's not like we gotta depress and repress frequently. We're not doing EVAs out of this thing. Far right panel lets you control the temperature. When you're on the sunny side of the orbit, temperature will increase, and on the dark side it will decrease. Use these controls in conjunction with the temperature gauge. Well, we're at 80 degrees Fahrenheit right now, which apparently is considered normal around here. Electric components produce heat too, so it is important to pay attention to the various indicators on board. It's vital to learn what the normal environmental control system levels are to understand when something is wrong. Check the gauges frequently. Okay, we'll go through all the nominal numbers. 5.5 psi there. Cabin air should be between 60 and 100. Darn it, I want it 74. Okay. I think that cools it down. Let me try more. Okay, that's more like it. Okay, sensor temp should show between 100 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That's fine. Steam vent temperature should show 45 to 100. Okay, that's the one I initially mistook for the oxygen because it also tops out at 100 and has suit and cabin. Suit temperature should show 60 to 100. Suit environment 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, let's up that. Cool that down. I'm the guy to send up for a nice 3-orbit mission, not a full day mission in this thing. Okay, that's more like it. Whoop. Okay, I'm good. Suit pressure should show 4 to 6. Well, it's somewhere in there. Cabin O2 should show 100%. Or, yeah, 1.0, yeah. The primary and secondary oxygen levels will be consumed. I wonder why it goes so far up, though. And it's only O2. The primary and secondary oxygen levels will be consumed over time. If the primary O2 is depleted, the secondary O2 will start being consumed. And if the secondary O2 is getting low, be prepared to abort depending on the mission time and objectives left. Okay, so that's that. Sequencer. This is to do with coming back down, finally. One could consider it also considered part of survival. Welcome to the Sequencer, Retrograde, and Landing mission lesson. In this lesson, we will cover the Sequencer Programmer, a system responsible for the event sequencer of the capsule. We will then use the knowledge to execute a retrograde burn with a splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean. First of all, the sequencer handles all automatic events and the autopilot modes by providing power to various electrical systems. The programmer controls the sequence system, the system that controls all major events and states within the mission. It has a simple user interface with a column of indicators showing the current state. The indicators are a column of lights on the left side of the panel. Each light has 3 states: unlit, normal, and pending. Unlit means that the event has not happened or isn't relevant anymore. Normal is indicated by a green light and means the event executed normally. Pending is indicated by a yellow light and means that the event is about to happen, is processing, or has failed. I don't suppose we could get a red light for failed, but the light will switch to green when completed. Failures will remain yellow. Let's quickly go through what each indicator represents. Jet tower indicates that the tower is about to be jettisoned. It will illuminate yellow a few seconds before jettison and turn to green if jettison is okay. Capsule sep will illuminate yellow a few seconds before capsule separation from the launch vehicle. It will turn green if separation is okay. Retro sequence will turn yellow when the retro sequence has started and green when completed. It is started when the time to retro timer reaches 0 or the execute button next to the light is pressed. Retrograde is what enables you to fire the retro engines for reentry. The retro sequence will normally start 40 seconds before ignition. The retro delay switch selects whether the retro fire sequence will start 40 seconds after retro sequence illumination, normal, or else instantly. So we can switch it to instantly if we tried 40 seconds and maybe that wasn't working out. The retro attitude indicator shows that you're in the correct attitude required for automatic retro fire. The retro will not fire automatically if the capsule is outside the range of the retro attitude. This is important as burning the retro engines in the wrong direction may make it impossible to get back to Earth. Yellow is outside correct attitude, green is inside correct attitude. The retro attitude switch can be used to bypass the retro attitude requirement. This is useful if there are malfunctions in the gyros, attitude, or autopilot systems. Fire retro will be yellow 10 seconds before retro engines are fired. The retros can be fired manually by pressing the button next to the light. It will be green when fire retro is completed. On the other side of the panel, retro warn and tone will indicate that the retros are about to start. Cancel if something is wrong. 60 seconds after retro fire, the retro engines will be jettisoned. Retro jet will be yellow 2 seconds before jettison and green if jettison was okay. Well, it says jet retro. Okay, after retro jettison, place attitude select switch to reentry. So after that, we select reentry. So the autopilot can position the capsule to the reentry attitude automatically. Do this now to learn how the craft reacts. Always be prepared to help the autopilot with manual attitude control, especially when setting the switch. Boy, do I tend to try to interfere maybe too often. I'm surprised it hasn't gone to retro pitch. It's just 0. What does this look like outside? Well, it is retrograde, so at least there's that. Can we tell that from inside very easily? Yeah, I can tell that the land is receding away from me, so I could tell that that's retrograde. I guess it doesn't have it. I guess that's how it's pointing there. Oh, it's turning a bit. Okay. The 0.05 G will illuminate when deceleration is detected. That's inside the atmosphere. Alpha will set the capsule into a roll for a more stable reentry. Drogue can be manually deployed by pressing the button next to the drogue indicator. The programmer will deploy this automatically at an altitude of 21,000 feet. You can see the drogue indicator on the altitude thing there. Snorkel will let outside air enter the cabin and set the O2 emergency mode on. A tone and indicator will indicate this, and this will automatically open after drogue deploy. Main will deploy the main chutes. You can manually deploy this by using the button. It's actually a pull ring next to the indicator. This accounts for the reserve 2 if the main chute fails, and the altitude indicator indicates that that'll be at 10,000 feet. Landing bag will illuminate when the landing bag is extended, making the capsule ready for impact and landing. Switch next to the button in auto will deploy it automatically 5 seconds after the main chute or instantly at manual. So as long as that's on auto, it'll do it after the main chute, but then it'll do it instantly if I switch it to manual. Rescue indicates that your rescue equipment, that's over there, that's not part of the sequencer. Your rescue equipment is deployed. Yeah, that's not part of the. I don't. Oh no, that's there is a light there. Okay, at splashdown automatically or instantly in manual. So we'd have to switch that to manual if the light doesn't deploy. A set of fuses gives you more control too. So those are here. So the programmer, let's not mess with that. For the programmer to operate correctly, ensure its fuse is set to 1 or 2, otherwise it's off. Set the attitude back to retro. The autopilot system will automatically maneuver the craft to the retrograde attitude. Oh, I thought it was, yeah, to that retrograde attitude. It's a little bit, what they call retrograde is tilted like this. It's interesting that that's the indicated retrograde attitude. The next part of this lesson will take you through retrograde burn and reentry and splashdown. About time. So the retrograde time shows when the retrograde sequence will start, and the time to retrograde timer below is currently counting down towards it. So that upper retrograde time is the time from launch, and then this is one that's the countdown. The handle on the satellite clock can be used to modify the planned retro sequence time. So let's not do that, but we can increase seconds and minutes like this. Use the time scale to about 30 minutes before retrograde, okay? Okay. We will now need to reconfigure the capsule for the retrograde burn, so got the pad, checklist, entry, pre-retro, cabin temp cold. Well, I certainly want it colder. I don't know if... They always try and keep me in heat here. Okay, run the checklist. Oh, we want it all the way up. Okay. That's fine by me. I like it cold. And inverter temp. So at T-30, the only thing we have to do is set everything as cold as possible. That's good. Okay. Then we wait till T-15. This is to cold soak the cabin before entry because the temperatures will rise during entry. Gets hot in here. Okay, checklist will now ensure that needed fuses and systems are set up. to ignite the retrograde engines. It will also ensure that the retrograde engines can't be jettisoned accidentally. Complete the steps and press clear all when the maintain retro attitude manual step is flashing. Okay. Oh, it auto did too many things there. We should know what the proper state of that stuff is. Okay, so obviously we don't want to auto retro jettison right now. And so normally we shut these off after launch anyway. Maintain retro attitude, auto or manual. Where was that? Press clear all when the maintain retro attitude manual step is flashing. I guess we don't do that? Well, I guess I'll have to clear all. I don't even know what to do with that step. I mean, that's not an auto or manual thing there, so I don't know which auto or manual it's talking about. Okay, now the retro checklist. Okay, so that's at 5 minutes. Guess we don't have to worry about its orientation right now, right? Oh, I tried to use the wrong time warp. Okay, so right 5 minutes to retrograde light illuminated. Yes, that's the 5 minute to retrograde. Okay. I feel like it hasn't really properly prepared me by it should tell me what state all the switches should be in for this, because inevitably I'm going to mess up and have one of these switches in the wrong position, but they just started out in the right position. I feel like it's also turning very wildly all over the place sometimes. I mean, why does it keep having to adjust things? Well, anyway. Okay, 5 minutes before the retrograde sequence starts, the light will illuminate. It is, yeah. Next event will be the start of our retro sequence. During the retro sequence, you can use the seconds handle of the satellite clock. The outer marks on the clock, that clock I suppose, can be used to time things. Use time skill until retro sequence starts. Well, judiciously. It doesn't seem like it's retro. I mean, what kind of picture are you? Come on, get it right. Now it's turning. It should have already been in the right position. Lazy. 0. Then it has those two. Well, those are green. I don't hear there's an audible tone that warns the retrograde engine is about to fire. I think I don't need to... maybe I should silence it. It's fine. They will fire one at a time. That's number 1. We are pointing retrograde-ish. Each engine will burn for about 10 seconds. I think that was all 3 actually. Okay, well, we've got all that. Fire, retro. We had the audible tone. Okay. Start reentry checklist. So, what was it about the... I guess jettison we'll handle in the reentry checklist? Okay. Auto retro switch arm. Well, let's just clear that and Reentry, yep. Yep. Now we finally get to jettison the darn thing. Okay, after retro jettison, we didn't actually switch that one off. Okay, attitude select reentry. And then we wait until the G-forces are at 0.05. So now it's maneuvering us for better retrograde. That's Baja California over there. You can see that on the map as well. We're over Mexico. So we'll end up in the Atlantic. Timescale setting should happen at 1 hour and 40 minutes on the mission timer. So we have to wait a little while before hitting the atmosphere. That scope is a bit interesting. Okay, now we've reached 0.05 Gs. We're off the east coast, touching the atmosphere. We have not got the roll rate yet. We are pointed in the wrong direction. Yeah, uh-oh. This is not how I want to enter the atmosphere. Guys, it's not oriented right. Well, should I interfere or not? It failed again. Okay. I guess that's okay. Now that's more retrograde. Okay. Let me just give it a roll then. I don't know what all the jumping around is for though. Well, we're experiencing some stuff going on. I can hear a rumble. But the automatic system did not point me in this direction. Hopefully I've done the right thing. Landing checklist, that's optimistic. Well, I'm going in the right way around mostly. No thanks to the autopilot. Don't know about that little flap though. Feel like I should close that, but anyway. So, we're still above 100,000 feet. G-force 7. And going down right now. I wonder if I would have burned up if I was oriented the other way around. That was basically perpendicular to the atmosphere with the autopilot in control. And it was not trying to roll me. See, that's why it should have told me where the switches should all be. Clearly something was missed. Or something was pulled accidentally or something. Most of the entry is automatic and your job is to monitor the G-load and altitude. The autopilot will take you through the atmosphere. No, it won't. So remember folks, no matter what, you should look out the window and check that you're going in the right direction. Because the autopilot lies. We're going pretty far out into the Atlantic too. This is not where I wanted to end up. But anyway. We're still above 100,000 feet. In my prior experience, that goes down really quickly though. Cabin pressure is still 5.5. Guess I should keep the roll going. I don't think I can. It doesn't seem to respond like that. Oh, now we're going through the lower part of the atmosphere, that's why. Well, I'm going to switch back to normal. Okay, waiting for emergency drogue deploy. Okay, well I heard something, but the light didn't light up. Okay, well that's the oxygen. But I'm gonna press that just in case. Can I see a drogue? Yeah, I can see a drogue. It doesn't seem like it's lighting things up. Emergency... It didn't even tell me about that. Main chutes. Main chutes are out. It actually lit that one up anyway. RCS fuel will automatically dump and the landing bag will extend. Landing bag extended. Pillow used to soften or impact with the water. Fuel warning light illuminated. Yeah, I silenced that alarm. They didn't mention that before. Okay, then we splash down. So we are like this. The carrier's there, even though I swear my reentry profile probably meant that we would be off. But anyway, it's being very kind. The landing bag is this thing underneath the heat shield. You see the heat shield actually pops down. Very interesting. So then we try to make comms with the thing. The pressure regulator handle out. Landing bag tell light green. Yeah, we've got that. Oh no, it actually doesn't let me time warp right now. We just have to wait this one out. No, that's not what I wanted. Uh-oh, I pressed F2 instead of F1. No, it crashed the game. No. Pressing F2 right there crashes the game. That was just a lesson anyway. Oh, it's interesting. Steam doesn't recognize that it stopped. Oh, now it wants an update. Apparently there's another patch. Between when I started streaming Reentry and now, there's been another patch. Patch notes. Is it because of this crash? Oh, yes it is. Patch notes. The reference for the Mercury F2 DevTool cameras used to create some scenes for launch trailers has been removed. Calling it would cause a recursive stack overflow exception, as some of these DevTool cameras was missing. This would lead to a crash to desktop. Yes, let's get that patch in to solve that crash to desktop I just had. Accidentally. Plan to reintroduce these cameras with some additional orbiting cameras in a later patch. Thanks for reporting. Okay, well, it saves me the trouble of reporting that. So we can relax. All right, so that patch has been applied. Well, you can appreciate the devs being right on time with that, basically.